For the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the world. This is what Jesus tells the crowd in this Sunday's gospel reading from John. This part of the chapter 6 of John, is known as the Bread of Life discourse. Jesus, in this discourse, first chides the crowd for seeking him out, not because they've comprehended signs, but because they were filled with the bread he miraculously multiplied, which, by the way, was last week's gospel reading. In other words, they've missed the point of the sign entirely. To clarify, he tells them not to seek perishable bread, but rather bread that lasts. Then he uses the image brought up to him by the crowd of manna coming down from heaven. This leads him to his discussion of the Eucharist, where he declares that he himself is the bread of life that has come down from heaven. Now, this imagery of descent is all over John's gospel. The Son of God has come down to the earth. This is the dynamic of the incarnation. It's also the dynamic of sacraments. It's the dynamic of grace. God comes down to enter our reality. Now, this particular passage focuses on how that happens in the Eucharist. The bread we receive in the Eucharist is the true bread from heaven, Jesus Christ himself. But why does the Son come? And by the same logic, why does he make himself available to us in this way in the gift of the Eucharist that we as Christians partake in? The Son comes both in the Incarnation and in the sacramental life of the Church, especially in the Eucharist, to transform, to give life. Jesus' presence brings union with God, salvation. And by coming down to share in our humanity and by becoming nourishment for us, he elevates us in our humanity. He gives us new life. This life that Jesus brings us is experienced both eternally in salvation, but also concretely in the here and now. As Jesus declares that he is the bread of life, he promises that those who come to him will not hunger and thirst. Now, Jesus here uses the imagery of sated hunger and quenched thirst not only to point to fulfillment in heaven, but also to talk about our spiritual hunger and thirst that we experience in our daily lives now, which, by the way, is much more difficult to satisfy than our physical hungers. So partaking in the nourishment that is Christ himself gives our life direction, eternal direction, and sustenance. Having ultimate purpose and getting a foretaste of that purpose sacramentally shapes our life and the decisions we make in the present. And it also fills a deep-seated need and longing that nothing else will fill.